Morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Trust everybody's doing well. Welcome all our practitioners to our monthly support session. This is the product deep dive, the one we have the third Saturday of each month. We do have another which is earlier in the month, which is for the first Saturday, which is support call. So Q&A questions, how to break in, and then things like that. So here on this session, we have a practitioner come and tell us about a particular product suite, or and then give us a deep dive with a demo on a particular product or application in there. So they would be introducing themselves and then going ahead to give us, the demo as they are done with that intro, and then they would also be answering any questions that we would have and then provide us a conclusion. So, you know, once again, the chat is open, especially if you have your questions. Um, you can, put them there, so that way you don't miss your line of thoughts just in case, or if you have your notepad or OneNote, where you can also, put in those questions so that you can always use the reactions, so raising your hands and things like that, so that way we can also get to you. But yeah, that's really, a smart intro. So if you're in a noisy place, pretty much everyone will be muted as they come in. But if you're in a noisy place and then for some reason you want to, ask a question, be cognizant of that. But yeah, we do have Elijah coming to try and share about the IT asset management or ITAM space. He would be taking the floor on. So Ola, over to you. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. It's been a while since I was last here. I see some known names and some unknown ones. Officially, my name is Elisha Adepoju. Unofficially, I go by Ola. And I'd like to throw out a few caveats before we start out this morning. I am, over the past few years, I've come to discover I don't have the talent to teach, so I am not a teacher. So you would permit me this morning to go at as the spirit leads. In trying to prepare for today's session, I saw how difficult it is putting together a curriculum to teach people. And even up to 1 hour ago, I still was confused about how to go about this. So kudos to all those who have training outlets where they train people. It's a lot of work. Not certain I've been called out for that. Caveat number two, usually on Saturdays, I take my son to go play football. Today, the wife has gone to do that. So I'm left with the two last ones. I refer to them as my bosses. I'm hoping and hopeful that they won't interrupt us during the course of this session. But in the event that you hear banging on the door, please understand that it is the bosses who are at the door. I just said it, and there they are already banging on the door. So please understand with me. Having said so, I'll go out to share my screen and the screen. And here her already asking me to let her in. So, in trying to understand what we attempt to do this morning, we'll go through very briefly a lot of things and see. Sorry, please hold on. Let me just attend to her at the door. Sorry about this, guys.
Fine, thank
you. Again, this does not become very repeated. Okay, so ITAM is broadly divided into hardware and software. For those of us who have been in this space, we've come to understand, as the name depicts, it is asset management. And for every organization, we have hardwares and softwares. What ServiceNow has been able to do, can we all hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Okay. And what ServiceNow has been able to do is to develop applications and modules to meet specifically software and hardware requirements that organizations do have. There are lots of documentations out there, lots of videos out there that speak to each of these applications. Organizations, again, have been able to adopt these applications and customize them to their specific uses. I'm sure you would know, for those of you who have some form of experience in the ServiceNow space, most times, often than not, the applications we use, every organization configures them to each specific need. And so your work, whether you are BA, technical consultant, admin, developer, whatever your role is in the ServiceNow space, you will discover your work basically revolves around configuring and customizing those applications and modules to suit the peculiarity of either your company or the client to which you are contracted to. And just a little background into why organizations do these. And over the years, organizations have always used assets, whether it be computers, printers, they've always procured softwares. There's always been use of assets by organizations. We'll do some definitions after now, but just to give you an understanding of why this application was developed. Okay, we'll do this using an architecture that was built for software, and just to explain why and what the peculiarity about these models are designed to do. So it was discovered in 2020 that this amount was wasted in software, $185 billion as at the end of 2020 by organizations. And so a lot of money was being thrown away by companies because they weren't optimizing the use of their assets. Okay, and so ServiceNow went into work and came up with how can we better manage our assets. Organizations can save up to 30% in software costs within the first year of implementing their software space. Okay, that's a research done by Gartner. And why did they have these issues? Because managing assets were being done manually, a lot of issues were being observed with the way companies hitherto now manage their assets. Again, both software and hardware, regardless of whether it's hard or soft, are assets that you must optimize as an organization to drive efficiency. And so what the aim was is, as an organization, what software do you own? Are you buying what you need? And are you using what you have? These are some of the questions that ServiceNow sought to answer for organizations in their use of both the hardware and the software asset management models. And eventually the outcome was to drive visibility to IT estates, understand license compliance, and remediate risk with actionable workflows. I would like to show us, as we go on, yes, a high level architecture of what managing your assets look like, whether it be software or hardware. Again, we're using the software architecture presentation. Now, for every organization, you have procurement processes, you have support processes, you have audit processes, contract management processes, all of them are required in the proper functioning of an organization. And what this module seeks to do, again, is it gives you that overview of how you can better manage those processes to achieve results. Okay, now for this presentation, what was done was, okay, you create a catalog item. I'm sure we, in the course of our trainings, have spoken about catalog items, right? We all know what a catalog item is?
Correct.
Okay, and so you build out the catalog item. There is a request that goes, whether it is software or hardware, to your manufacturers, whoever it is, your contractors, whoever it is that supplies you your assets. Now, in just these two phases only, a number of custom actions happen in organizations that, again, like I said, this is high level. A lot goes into software requests. When this stage alone is broken down into a flow, you will see how many processes happen in just the requests before you go into acquiring or procurement, into maintaining the software or hardware, into maintaining the life cycles of your assets. Then you allocate the entitlements, and then you go into optimizing use and whether you're reclaiming it after use or decommissioning or keeping statuses of where your devices are. All those go into that process. At the end of the day, all of these is geared towards, again, optimizing the processes you run in your organization. And again, every organization that I know of use multiple softwares, regardless of whether you are big or small, whether you use Outlook, you use Google environments. There are lots of software organizations use. And so you want to make sure you have visibility of all of this, and all of this is built into a process that can be easily managed. Discovery and normalization. We'll talk about all of this in just a bit. And then I'll go ahead to show you this. So in broad perspective, asset management revolves around planning, requesting. There's an approval that happens between request and sourcing. Then you allocate what has been approved, and it is managed. And then the support that goes into it before you initiate the end of life for that asset. And that can be done in a lot of ways. Now, having said so, we'll briefly run through, again, what we're trying to do is not something we can do in 2 hours. But what I intend for us to do today will be, we'll touch very briefly on software and then cross over to hardware, do a little more in hardware, do some labs, and then do questions. But as I go along, please feel free to ask me questions if you do have them. Okay, having said this, whole essence of what we'll be doing today will be, again, like I said, talk very briefly on software. We'll define few points before we go on. Sorry, I have all of them open out. Okay. There are a few terminologies we use in asset management that I would like for us to get abreast with. That way we get to understand proper what asset management is about. Again, like I've been saying before now, the goals of asset management is maintain compliance, optimize your spend, and support whatever assets you have. And there's a process flow for this in documentation. Again, this documentation is in your non-learning. Starting everyone on this training does have access to ServiceNow Learning. If you don't, I'm sure our tutor would give you instructions how to go create a profile in Now Learning. Again, like I said, you bring in your catalog items, you do procurement, there's discovery that goes for looking for software, there's contract management, and all of that. But yes, those are the common terms that you would come across in the asset management space, whether it be hardware or software. Now, there's allocation, where use rights are assigned to specific devices or users. There is normalization. Now, in normalization, there is usually an interlink with ServiceNow that helps you correct the abnormalities you have in your database as far as asset details are concerned. Okay. Over the years, you bought 100 devices, you update your database. And there are different ways we do database update, whether it be via loading of data, whether it be an integration that exists with a different application, whether it be manually imputing those newly procured devices into your databases. There are different ways we update our database to capture the assets we have. Again, I want to believe we know what data loads and transform maps and all of that refer to. If we don't, again, maybe we'll touch briefly on it before we go. And so, oftentimes we discover over a period of time, there are some errors you would see in your database, which impacts on data integrity. And so what you seek to do is to clean up your database such that all the assets you have in your database capture the details as they should be. And that is where the word normalization comes into play. Okay, so it's the process of standardizing discovered software installation data to define norms. There are, for HP, for Dell, for some, whatever it is the manufacturer is, all models are predefined by the manufacturer. If your model number is XYZ456, every model by that company, XYZ456, should carry the same model number. You can now have a variance in product number or serial number, but the model for that product should be the same. So if I go to buy Samsung XYZ456, if Nnameka goes to buy the same model, all that should vary between my product and his product will be the serial number, asset tag, and everything else. But the product's name and the model number should be the same. But oftentimes we've discovered, again, in databases, some of those discrepancies does exist. And what normalization does for you is it removes all those stuff. Again, running through very briefly, reconciliation, you're producing a compliance position by comparing the software you have. Again, just go ahead and read through in your Now Learning. Now, for every asset, there is a defined life cycle. For every product, there's an expiry date. The same thing you have with your assets in organizations. The expectation is that you don't use your laptops, your desktops, your printers forever. There's the word they use most times in office space, they call it refresh. If your asset has been used for, if it's defined to be used for 4 years or 5 years, the expectation is after that number of time, defined period of time, the company is supposed to swap out that asset you have and give you a new one. So again, organizations have defined custom processes to achieve that. And that is where the life cycle of an asset is important. You must capture the life cycle of assets so that you know when to refresh those assets. Again, organizations have agreements they've come into with producers and manufacturers. You give me laptops in 2020, I use them for 5 years. After 5 years, I return the 20 laptops back to you at 40% off of the value we bought it for. And so at the end of the day, there's some value that the company gets if we're able to return all all those 20 devices back to you 4 years after they were given to us. So even if we're preparing new ones for you, we retain a value that we've gotten from those 4 years that is transferred onto the new ones we're procuring from you. So all that goes into agreements reached into with manufacturers in the procurement and use of assets by organizations. Again, like I said, the idea is to just do this very briefly. We want to do labs in hardware, and so we would let's continue here. What else do I want to show us before we leave hardware? Good, personas and roles. Workspace, again, depends on your organization. For you to operate in the asset management space, especially for software, there are specific roles you need to have for you to be able to work in the software space. Maybe I should have touched this first. The plugins. Okay, if you go to your PDI, one thing you would see is that you do not have access to, you do not have access to software in your PDIs. Asset management as a whole, oh my, it's coming up. The reason being that asset management is a paid for application, which is the reason why you will be unable to install the HAM plugins on your PDIs. You have to pay for it. It's not out of the box. It doesn't come for free. So some of these things you will not be able to practice on your PDIs. But what you can do is, like I've done, if you do if you do enroll in the courses, it gives you an instance where you can play in. So once you open up those instances, if you go to software, like I've done here, you would see all we're talking about. You'll be able to do this on the instance attached to the courses. But to do it on your PDIs, it won't let you do that because you don't have ITAM on your PDIs. So if you say, let's say we're looking for SAM, whether as plugins or applications, you would see those plugins, software asset management,
I say
software
you're
asset
not on the
management.
phone.
Sorry? Somebody saying something?
No, you're good. I think someone left their mute, I guess.
Okay. And just before I continue, it seems to have some chats already. Is anybody asking any question?
No, we're just sharing the
Okay.
simulator so they can go
Okay.
to the now learning. Yes.
Okay. This is still coming up. So let me go back. And so you will see the software plugins, and then you can play around in the instance attached to the now learning course. Now, to go back to plugins, for you to be able to do all of these, it is important you have the SAM plugin installed on your instance for you to be able to access the software modules. Okay, so the plugins that are associated with for free subscription to a product can be activated only after the company has purchased the subscription. So you won't see it on the PDI. That's what it means. It has to be on the purchased subscription. And after a plugin is active, it cannot be disabled or deactivated. So the plugin you would need to do this is SAM, as stated. Software coming up activated in this, activated by an admin user, not by default. For the software plugin list, I just want to see the name. It's mentioned somewhere. The name of the plugin is Software Asset Management. That's the name of the plugin for software asset management module on your instance. Okay, so once the plugin is activated, then you can begin to see modules that are associated with SAM, Software Asset Management. There are 3 modules within the SAM Professional Product Administration, this, and that. Again, all of this is available for you to use or to see on your now learning. So to go back to personals and roles, for you, again, to be able to carry out configurations, customizations, access, and use in the software asset management space, you should have these personals or be assigned these roles. So, again, I don't know how far we've gone with training as far as personals are concerned. Organizations have product or process owners, they have managers, they have administrators, and then there's the service now administrator, depending again on your organization structure. Usually developers have admin rights and privileges, and so they're able to make those changes to the instance as they are requested to. Okay, so the SAM admin role is what you ordinarily want to assign to your developer, oftentimes your product owner, depending again on the roles as defined by organizations. The admin gives you almost all the privileges to do anything you want to do in that space. The user oftentimes has access to front-end functionalities and not the back end. But again, organizations define them as they so desire. So even if out of the box, some roles as if you call someone a user, you only want to assign him a SAM user role. Some people might go ahead to assign extra roles to who you call a user. Organizations define the roles as they so desire. So it might not be completely out of the box as ServiceNow has defined it. But for you to carry out role assignments, again, that has to do with ACLs and all of that. It is important as a BA, you understand what your client, if you are working with the client or the organization. So let's say we onboard Mr. Peter as a new employee into the company. And as an administrator, you've been asked to assign him a role. It is important the organization lets you know what functions Mr. Peter will carry out. Is he coming into the team as a tester, as a developer, as a BA? All those are questions you want to ask first. In the documentations for the story to build roles for Mr. Peter, things are captured in your documentation so that whoever it is who is the administrator who will treat that story knows what roles to assign to that individual. Again, that is conversation for another day. Now let's rush very briefly to PAM and then do a little of labs before we call it a day today. A lot of things we saw in SAM, we also see in HAM. HAM is hardware asset management. And just to define again a few things, our assets again are referred to as hardware, or rather anything that is capable of being owned or controlled to produce value. That's what we call assets. And your IT asset now is different. An IT asset is considered a technology component that is managed through its life cycle for value, cost, contractual compliance, and usage. Okay, so where you see an asset as anything, you want to understand that an IT asset is a technology component. Okay, so which is why she is back. Sorry, just a minute. Let me just attend to her again. I'm sorry, guys. That break. Like I was saying, there are a few terminologies you have to understand in playing in this space. A few of them are defined. Again, I'm sure every documentation you pick up will define to you what a CI is, an asset is, an IT asset is, and all of that. Okay, so a little more deep dive into asset management. Simply stated, it is stewardship of IT assets for planning through on sunset. As we go on, successful ITAM programs encompass people, process, technology, all geared towards achieving and optimizing results. Your goals are defined in ITSM and ITAM. All of these are not the areas I want us to spend time on. Again, improve productivity, financial reporting, cost optimization, very important. Organizations have gone under because they have neglected cost implications to processes that they carry out. So it is very, very important that at the end of the day, this is being looked at very critically and decision support. So where does it fit? You're looking to properly manage this. Again, experience on the platform will also show you a lot of the applications we use on the modules are interlinked. You would see some applications you use, even if you're in the ITAM space, being used also by the guys in ITAM or the guys in ITSM. And so some of these processes are interlinked, again, depending on the organization's structure. Um, you oftentimes don't exist as a silo in ServiceNow as far as applications are concerned. You will see the guys in other modules sharing the ALM underscore asset table with you just because they to make references to the assets as captured in that database. And then the components of life cycle. I'm looking for something where we can do.
Okay, sounds good.
Carry out
We
our
have a question.
Okay.
Dari asked the question. So he's trying to understand the IT asset management and then financial operations. So pretty much financial management, how they are complementary. And then you touched on it a little bit there with that last slide. But he's trying to understand how both of them are actually tied together. So,
Okay.
but you tried to explain it a little bit there with the last guy, but go ahead. Just,
Okay.
uh,
Again, our tutor has, our facilitator has spoken to that already. It's important. In everything we do, you cannot underestimate the place of cost cutting or cost management. If you budget to make $5 billion by the end of 2024 as an organization, and by quarter four you haven't even made 2 billion, already you know your quarter-on-quarter profits are in trouble. If by the end of the year, instead of making the 5 you projected, you will only were able to make 2, it just means as far as targets for revenue for that year is concerned, you didn't achieve those. Now, does that impact your operations? Definitely. Then you start talking of cutting costs, laying off staff. All of that now becomes an issue you have to sit down to manage. And that's why most of the organizations wake up and just say, we're laying off 700 people, 300 people. It's not because they just want to, but somehow they're not being able to meet their deadlines, their projected financial definitions as they should have for various reasons. I work in an organization where they have over 700,000 assets. We are redefining a process where, again, I don't know how this happened, but we are creating a process for them where everybody in that organization would have to go onto a catalog item that we have defined. We send them a link, you go there, it takes you to a catalog item that itemizes out assets that we think belongs to you. Okay? You validate that you either have it or you don't have it. Now, what that just says is somewhere along the line, somebody dropped the ball. Again, that is a discussion for another day. But in all honesty, these things happen. 2 years ago, my wife was offered an employment with an organization. Again, different processes run at the same time. She was sent a laptop, a tablet, charger, and all of that, even before her background check was completed. Now, for some reason, that background check did not clear. And so when she was supposed to resume, she couldn't resume. But they had already sent out her device to her to use as though she were an employee. Certain part of that process will have required that she was added to the Active Directory, her profile had been created, login, all of them must have been done. So whoever it was that dispatched our devices, again, did not know that background check did not clear process. As I'm talking to you, 6 months afterwards, we reached out to them to say, hey, we still have a device in our possession. Send us a return label for us to return back your assets to you. As I'm talking to you till today, we haven't gotten a response from that company. So I'm talking about a real life scenario. And that's what happens in companies. Assets are out there with a non-employee for 2 years. So the importance of managing your assets will not be overemphasized. You must know at every point in time where your assets are. Let's say somebody else was employed to take up the employment that she didn't get cleared for. Whatever the cost of the device that had been sent to my wife for that position was, would have been incurred to send to this new person that got cleared for the position. So the company had spent funds twice on the same position in assets. Again, those are the little things that eventually aggregate into cost financially for an organization. And those are things you want to cut away. So organizations are thinking of how better to manage all of these processes. Again, very briefly. So again, there's request, there's procure, there's receive, there's stocking, there's dispose. Now, if we are to do a proper dive into all of these, there are lots of processes that happen in every of these steps. Stock room, transferring from one stock room to the other. How do you manage transfer order lines? How do you manage procurement? How do you manage work orders? A lot of things happen in these 5 steps that's right in front of us. Again, we might touch one or two, but disposal, are we outrightly buying out the asset from the company? Are we returning back, reclamation rules? All of that goes into all of these stages as it's been defined in the life cycle. I saw a lab here, and I was hoping that would be an easy one for us to do. Validate ITAM applications are installed. Okay, this is just to check that we have this installed on our instance. The application is installed. I'm sure everybody can do that. Create a user account.
You want to show
Okay.
that, because I mean, installing applications is not everybody that knows how to do it. Definitely, you need the admin role to do it, but being able to validate it too as well. I mean, that's also something you can it's part of the demo you display. But yeah, while you do that, yes, IT assets, and then the financial planning one. I mean, it's something that is not totally new. The whole idea is the cost is the cost component to it. There's the asset management area. Where it's software. The whole essence is all about that cost component. So you're able to plan it. Whether you need to maybe re-strategize, which is the truth. So we're looking at the investment planning, whether you're the capex or opex. You're looking at those costing. So if you were talking of you want to switch to loaner laptops, things like that, that's fine. Like Elijah also talked about the use case where they had that asset, so it's the systems that was not really checked, so they're all disjointed systems. So for example, they already sent out the devices even without even making sure the backgrounds run through. I mean, I guess they were needing to have the resource come on board really quickly to ramp up for whatever case that is. But definitely that's something they should have, or someone should have been able to, know how to make sure they respond back and then get that back into the pool. If they need to reimage it, do whatever, keep it into the stock room so that someone else can be reallocated. Really, that's really the whole essence of the thing. So sometimes, if they outright own it, I mean, if it's software that needs to be reclaimed, software that people are not using again, things like that, they, to get them back into the pool, you really know the real total cost of ownership. You know what you can plan for, what you need to do, and then how you can go through it. But it's really finance, the value that they will have as any cost saving or optimization they can get. But really, that's a good thing. Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank
so
you. So what I was asking is how does ServiceNow bring both disciplines together? Talking about the role of ServiceNow in financial operations and IT asset management in bringing both field together. I know IT asset management. I understand what it's about and what FinOps is about, but I don't understand the how ServiceNow kind of facilitates both, as a platform.
okay, so there are. So hold on, sorry. There are applications that, sorry, just it takes install version 2.0.7.
Recently, ServiceNow tried to look at the whole supplier operations space, and then as asset management and co are also going to be there. Talking about that costing, I do know that there's I think is it supplier and procurement or whatever, so source to pay, many other applications that they are beginning to integrate within ServiceNow. So there should be a lot of activity or buzz around it, that they are beginning to ramp up that capability. But as at the last I do know, they have them individually, as capabilities, but definitely they are going to definitely get them up to being in a suite, like how they have the IT asset, where software asset and hardware asset is there. Then I think investment funding, so it talks about that planning and all of that, on that high level capability. But I guess with what's it called, with the uh, supplier thing, coming together, like the I believe it's the supplier and purchasing and stuff like that. They would have all of that in one umbrella where most of that would tie together. That's really I guess the way they're going to have to play it, for it to really tie both of them together.
Thanks so much, man. I was trying to. Okay, so this is my PDI. When you do a search, okay, so you go to the Footer Navigator and you type in plugins. It will. Okay, let me just go back to home. Let's come out of there and go back in as though we weren't there before, so that you can fully understand how we get there. Okay. So let's say I'm looking to check on my instance whether I do have plugins installed or not. You go to your Flickr Navigator and you type in plugins. You click on plugins. It opens up the application manager interface for you. This one here. Do enter, you'd see all of these, all the applications available. It allows you filter out for applications or for plugins, depending on what you're looking for. You also can do for products. If I'm looking for only IT asset management related applications or for was, we said, software asset management. Okay, you will see available for you, you will see updates, and you will see installed.
We can't see
I
your
want,
screen again though, so you
oh,
want to
oh, oh,
reshare. Yeah, it just dropped off.
sorry, sorry. Yeah. Can we all see?
Yeah, we can
Okay.
see it. So go ahead and go
Okay,
to
so
the
I
whole
was
screen. That's all. All right.
So I was saying you type in your plugins, it brings you to the application manager interface where you have your plugins, your applications, and all of that. You search for what you're looking for, it returns to you your search results. And you have 3 tabs available for you, the updates, and your installed. And what you would see for software asset management is that nothing for software is currently installed. Now, what you are looking to want to install, I will show you on the lab instance. Successfully installed this. Okay, so I do the same thing. This is the instance attached to Now Learning, where you should have everything. Why is it giving me that error? Okay, so let's say I'm looking to go back home. I'm looking to go to plugins. Okay. Depending again on what you do on your instance, everybody has a different homepage. Some people launches, some of your instance will launch directly into a dashboard interface. All that doesn't really matter. It just depends on how your instance is configured. And so let's say we are looking for plugins. You type plugins in your Filter Navigator, you click on plugins, and then you go ahead to look for, let's go back. This is the interface it should launch you into. And we look for software asset management.
Are you sharing the different one? You want to refresh because it's showing also widescreen. Just in case. Yeah, you just reload it, I guess. Um, that way we might see it.
There we go.
Looks like there's a delay, I guess.
Can we also my screen now?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. So I go back to, can we see?
Okay. Yeah, we can see it now.
Okay. So you search for your software asset management. Again, like I said, this is the instance attached to Now Learning where you do have software asset management installed. You see you have installed plugins already. Again, let's say there are more plugins I want to install that are peculiar to SAM, like we call it. I could go ahead and install any of those plugins and I would be allowed to. But if you are unable to do it through your PDS, just go to the instance attached to your Now Learning and go ahead and play around there. The current version will be listed there. If there is a plugin that requires an update, so let's do this. Let me just show you what you would see if we're looking for plugins that, okay. So usually, every now and then, ServiceNow updates available plugins on the plugins list. You would see update available for some. If the current version of plugin you have is not the latest one, you will see something like this attached, or sorry, written on your plugin or the application as it may be. And then if you go into it, it gives you the opportunity to proceed to update. You just click on that button and you do install. And that way you get to update your plugin. So that's a different process entirely. Having said so, the next thing we wanted to do was to create asset manager account and grant access to IT asset management and HAM. This is not ITAM actually, but we can do this. Again, I'm sure we know how to create users in the system. Do we or don't we?
I mean, you could show us, but we should have an idea of
We
how
know,
to create users. Yeah.
we know
For me,
because
right, your screen is actually always, I think it's either there's a delay or so, because I think when you now click on it, it's failing to load the second page where you look at the plugin and then you see the, the updates for the, that you have for whatever version you need to, so that you can schedule it also.
maybe you can try to log off the meeting and log back in so you like restart your system browser.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Let's play in between browsers and see, are we time changing?
Yeah, we're seeing you're moving your mouse
No.
up.
Okay, good. So we said there are lots of things I want us to touch. These are the easy ones that anybody can do. Just go to your user_GUI member.list and click on new, create user, assign roles, depending on the role you want to assign to your asset account manager. Remember, we spoke about personals and roles in a previous slide we were on. All those come into play now if you are to create your personals and roles for the person you are creating it for. I wanted us to do more heavy labs than just creating users and doing roles. But should we go ahead and create? Okay, let's just do it for the purpose of this class. Installation failed. Story for another day. Getting errors. Okay. Let's go user list.
We're seeing the overview of the lab, um, uh, except you have a different screen for your for the instance itself.
Changed already. I'm on the instance now.
Okay, but we are still seeing the
We still can
lab
see the
overview. You see lab overview, except it's not on the same tab. So you have a different.
Let me change back to this.
Are you sure
Can we see?
your whole screen or just a particular window?
I'm changing browsers. I'm switching in between browsers now.
Oh, that's why then. Maybe you need to share your whole window and not just the screen.
So let me go back to WebEx. Can we see the WebEx interface?
No.
That browser we don't have it though. That's because I'm like you're jumping now.
Stop sharing and then share. So there is a window and there's entire screen.
Entire screen.
Entire screen. Yeah.
Entire screen. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Share. Okay. Can we see now the entire screen?
Yes, we can. Then you can now
Okay,
go.
so I'm going in between this browser and this browser.
Right. So when you jump to the other browser,
Thinking?
it would take a minute for us to see what you're
Oh,
seeing.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So if you have everything
Can we,
on one browser in hand, that way we know that okay, you're just moving through.
Yeah, you might have to use just one browser.
Because if it will delay before it moves. It's remembering just that browser you have. So that way, once you jump to the other one, it's taking I guess a while to get to that end of it. Yeah.
let's see. We can do that. The reason is I have different Google accounts on different browsers, so they are configured to load different instances
Okay.
So,
You want to do incognito on the other one that you have where you share the screen one?
can you guys see my screen now?
Not yet.
Oh, you can't see?
Nothing. It's zero. Blank. Not yet.
Come on, guys. What's happening?
Yeah, now we can. Just came up now. As I said, there's like a delay. Mhm.
Okay, so
Yeah, now we can see it. Yeah. Okay.
I will remember my password. Let's see. Hopefully, I remember it. Hopefully, I knew it. I just do this straight. I'll go straight to my instance and just go straight from there.
You're like me.
Can we see? Can we still see?
Yes, we can see. I guess I'm also like you. I don't get to remember passwords, so
That's the problem. So
from the
I
browser.
don't have it. But can we see the instance now?
We
Yeah,
can
it's
see it here.
just
We're
a lot.
seeing that same page. That's what I'm explaining. If you switch in browsers or stuff, it's delayed. It's delayed to go. So like now we can only see like you try to put the password, it didn't go through. That's it. It's stuck there.
Okay. Okay. So let me launch now learning here and go to Sam here. Again, like I said, all these things I don't put in anything. I just no, that's not the right one. Next. Next. So let's go back there. There. So we're looking for what doing on the other side was the instance, right? The Sam instance. So let's see. Be able to launch it here. Fundamentals, instructor led on demand.
You're using WebEx on your this thing. That's why too. So you won't change your browser. You're using the WebEx on one browser. So that's not going to allow you. So when you switch to a different browser, it's not going to see it, even if you're sharing your entire screen. That's the thing.
You're saying all along we haven't been seeing the second browser all along?
No, you're using WebEx on your browser, so it's going to only be capturing that browser screen. So if every time you switch to a different browser, you cannot see nothing. No.
Wow.
Yeah, so you need to
Nobody told me that.
Right. So whatever browser you have, that's where everything would be, because you're using WebEx on your browser. It's not like you have it on an app. So it's not seeing the entire this is where you're switching browser and stuff. No, it wouldn't see. It would just be on that desktop. That's what you're using or whatever.
Sorry guys, I actually thought all along because I've been switching in between browsers all along. I was thinking you guys have been following me and seeing everything I've been doing.
No, we're seeing the
I don't
first
have
one every
WebEx
time you're on
installed.
the other one.
Sorry.
Right. Not a problem. Whatever browser you have the WebEx, that you're using on the browser, that's the one that you need to do the demo on, because that's the one we were following at the beginning. When we stopped seeing the switch to the second browser or whatever, that was where we kind of like said, okay, that you needed to stop sharing or something like that. Yeah. All right, good job. We can see.
Can we all see my desktop?
Yeah, we can see now. Yes.
Okay. So like this. Somewhere. Let's go back to
Yeah, we can see.
so the issue I have here is for me to even do this, I have to buy, which is why
Oh no
I
no no no
drove
no
this.
no. What I'm
Can we see
saying,
this now? Yeah.
yeah, we can see
Is this
this now.
visible?
Yeah, yeah,
Beautiful,
this is.
beautiful, beautiful. So we're good now. I'm sorry about that delay. So from the lab, we said we wanted to create asset manager account and grant access to that application. So I said we just go to create. If we choose to create, you create new, and then you can, as you so desire. The joy of it is there's no problem. There are no mandatory fields here. So all of these, then you go ahead and save. There's a mandatory for the should return you with an error. And then whenever you go ahead to assign roles as we so desire, and say we want to give him admin, push that there. We want to give him software admin. Any of the roles you want to assign to this individual is all in there. You just pick any of the roles. Again, like I said, um, the important thing is in the requirements captured, the documentations you are doing as a BA, whoever it is that would go ahead to create this role should know what role to assign. It should be stated in there, give him ABC roles, and once it is defined by the organization, you can go ahead and assign roles as you so desire. In that there, you save. This role now has this assigned to it. It has all of this that comes with. That's how you choose to go about it. But ServiceNow best practice is that you assign roles to groups and you assign individuals, you add individuals to that group. That is best practice. So, but for the purpose of tests, why we did this, usually everybody who has all of these roles will be in a group. So if I'm going to onboard Nameka or Peter, I just bring Peter and I add to the group of persons that have all those roles already attached. So automatically he gets assigned all those roles. That's ServiceNow 101. Then confirm asset manager has the correct access to perform his role, download lab supporting files. All of this is not where I want us to go to. Trustworthy data introduction. So we spoke about normalization earlier, and we said very critical for organizations is that what you have captured in your database is the details of assets as they should be. And we spoke about normalization. In ServiceNow, normalization is achieved when you activate the NSC. I'll show us that plugin. Again, that all talks to why we should have clean data. There's discovery, normalization, model types, all those definitions are captured in there. And then why we need to have clean data, the life cycle attached to those. Good. So what do you want to track? An organization begins to plan their strategy. They need to determine what information to track, to consider the type of information to track, and to identify how they plan to use it. All of these are the questions you begin to ask and look for answers to as you seek to build a process with the HAM or SAM applications such that you're able to achieve the clean data we spoke about with normalization, okay? So asset management, models, configuration management, every documentation, I'm sure will give you all of these. I'm actually headed somewhere very fastly. What is a model record? Okay, model provides base information for many different applications in service. Now, model names goes ahead to explain some of the errors we do make as we go ahead to use models and products in service now, and I'll show you a typical example of what was referred to that we spoke about earlier. Okay, so many stories there. Like I said, there's no way we can do proper justice to the subject in hand, but I'd like to touch on this before we go ahead. For your assets, every asset is in one of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 states. At every point in time, the asset is either on order, in stock, in transit, in use, consumed, in maintenance, retired, or missing. At every point in time, your asset must be in one of these life cycle states of life cycle. So you have the states and you have the sub-states. If you go to your ALM underscore asset table, asset.list, show it out very briefly. Just open up any asset, get an asset tag, depending on how your list view is configured. Okay, you will see the field for states, on order, in stock, in transit, in use, maintenance. And for every state you pick, if I say order, a corresponding substate is attached. And so if you go to in stock, you should see some of these in your substates. So when we go to in stock, you'd see you have those substates listed against the states. Again, all these are things we can play around with in our own time. Something I'm trying to show us before we go ahead and do the second lab. Asset details. Again, this speaks to our asset, what the asset form looks like, similar to what we have there in the documentation. Creating a new asset. For as far as PAM or SAM is concerned, the avenue, the opportunity to create asset does exist depending on how your organization is structured. Okay, I like to show 100 per page. Now, there's always the new button that you have on your asset table, whether it be ALM underscore hardware or software, and then you can manually create. You choose what type of asset you want to create, or assets have been purchased by procurement, have gone through approval and all of that. Details of that asset is captured in an Excel sheet most likely, and you do data import, load data using transform map onto this table. That's another way you can update your asset table. Again, there are integrations that can be done to bring in asset created in other applications into what you currently. It just depends on how your organization is defined. And so the capability to create assets does exist for either hardware or software, like the case may be. Something I'm trying to get to very fastly. Okay. Let's start from here. See. So Good. Beautiful. Now, this is one diagram I wanted to show us, and I will explain why I wanted to show us this diagram. Okay? Before ServiceNow, for most organizations, before ServiceNow is introduced as a software for your asset management, other softwares could have existed, whether it be remotely, whatever the name is. Organizations have been in existence managing assets before they introduced ServiceNow for most organizations. And so what ServiceNow would do is, upon the implementing and use of ServiceNow in your environment, there is a discovery that happens for existing software. Again, that is configured using a mid server. All that is a different process entirely that we can talk to in a different class. But what we have discovered does happen is whether the database is updated via discovery or you are importing data for the assets captured into your database, or you are doing manual entry. Now, all of these three assets is the same device, but you will see they all have different names. Okay, this captures MacBook. There's Mac, there's space before book. Pro 15 Apple is what was discovered. Same model. Now, this captures it as Mac and book as one word. This is Pro 15. This has quotation marks. This has no quotation marks. Apple here is capital. Apple here is small. And then to the one that you want to try to avoid as much as possible is manual entry. What we just try to do now, how to create assets. You just go in there, you do new, and you create. Now, Mac here is two words. Mac here is one word. Mac here is hyphen one word. MacBook, all uppercase M, lowercase AC. Same thing here. Hyphen here, no hyphen here. Here, all uppercase. B is uppercase, B is lowercase, B is uppercase. And then look at the spelling for Apple. You have uppercase A, lowercase a, and our brother or sister who decided to spell Apple decided to change the EL, as in the LE to EL. Now, the issue is, regardless of how you choose to enter data for assets into your database, oftentimes it saves. Again, there are all the data capabilities that can be built into fields depending on how advanced you are with that process to eliminate errors like this, the validity that it can be done. But at the end of the day, this does happen in real life. I can show you examples on my client instance. You always find that you're talking about the same device, but it's returning different names for that same asset. And so what normalization tends to come to do is it looks for three things. Okay, first is that the manufacturer, the product name, and the product number. And so at the end of the day, when you add your normalization plugin with ServiceNow, a scheduled job runs daily. That scheduled job is called asset update. Asset something update. That job runs daily. Now, once that job runs, what it goes to do is it looks for errors like this as captured in your database for models that have been normalized in your content cards with ServiceNow, and it corrects these errors. And so those are some of the capabilities that does exist with ServiceNow using the HAM and SAM applications. So you're able to clean up the database such that data integrity is achieved, okay? And there's a plugin that you must activate. To make that happen, NCS something, I can't remember. NCS, yeah, NCS is the name of the plugin, if I'm not mistaken. And then for you to have the management content service activated on your instance, again, you have to opt into it for that to happen. And when that happens, there's a download that occurs when that job runs into your instance that now allows you update all the errors you have in your instance.
Right. Elijah, we do have Temi raised their hand. So Temi, you have a question, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. The question I have here is based on the example that you gave, in the scheduled job runs, is it gonna also delete duplicate records, or is just renaming and just keeping one record with that same serial number or the model ID?
Okay, good question. Very good question. Okay, so we had an issue with service where we still do have an issue with service now, where the way that whole process plays out is an organization updates service now with, let's say we have Dell, Samsung, and HP, all the models of those three products that we have from the manufacturer in the content service. So whatever download comes back from service now helps us capture the normalized, the standardized details and update our database. Now, I spoke about this scheduled job earlier. The apply latest content changes. It's a scheduled job that runs daily. And ordinarily, this is supposed to correct basically three things. All it does is it corrects the product name, manufacturer, and model number. Now, these are usually the basic things that happen. Now, you spoke to duplication. That only occurs when you are importing data into your instance. Now, this is not creating new. This is not bringing in what you don't have. This process only corrects what you currently have. Usually for best practices to avoid duplications and all of that, what you would see is you coalesce certain fields with as unique characteristics, such that in the event that when you're doing data import, you do not duplicate existing assets. Again, that is loading your database. That again, we said can happen in different ways. But this only speaks to correcting what you already have. So this doesn't duplicate what you currently have, it just corrects it, which is the reason why to normalization, there are three statuses. There is partial normalization, there is manual normalization, and there is full normalization. So at the end of the day, if we're able to pull up that table, let's see. So if I go to product models, I'll show you that very briefly. Product models, and go to, let's do all models. Let's see. And bring in So this times to myself. Delete that. What the hell? Okay. Just explain everything.
Right now, we're seeing your email, just in case.
Yeah. I had to join from a different laptop. Actually.
Oh, okay, okay. But normally, for that one, the whole essence is this. There could be errors depending on how you bring in or how your data comes in, but the schedule job is supposed to go there to normalize the data. But if you're using that content library, yes, it's supposed to pretty much update them, if I remember correctly. But
Yeah.
one thing is for certain, remember that each manufacturer represents this differently. Yes, they're the same model, but there will be their own pretty much a tag or model number or whatever. So, but it's kind of like close to it, because let's say we have an OEM, say for instance Samsung. If Best Buy is going to be your supplier, there will be different suppliers. Suppliers will have different ways that they keep track of it. But and then also maybe discounts that they would have, which all of this will also be tied or passed along to the customer. So remember, you're going to load all of these. It's all the same model. So 15, maybe Dell is the apps. My supplier is this, my supplier is that. All of that will actually be, be well allocated or be well, how's it put it, tagged, so that way I can actually, walk it through its life cycle and see, okay, where I'm at with it, or who has it, or who's using it, or is it in the stock room, or is it something that is, end of life? Is it something I need to? But you really, that's really what most of that is really all about, talking about that value. Yeah. But different suppliers, different way that same information or that same particular equipment can be stored within that system. Yes.
Still trying to conserve.
Yeah, great question, Dari. Great question, Tammy. Hey, don't forget. I know we are, past the time. Um, okay,
I'm going to stop sharing here.
okay, sounds good.
Just share. I think I'm in, right? Oh, join meeting. Sorry. Yes. Yes.
Dari also has a question. He said something about the product model. I think it should be the one that you were trying to take a look at, to help to standardize it and streamline that IT asset, and then have you speak about it. I think you were trying to look at that too.
Okay, so sorry. Need to stop sharing. Okay. So I was talking about something earlier. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So I said when normalization is achieved, you will usually see
Yeah, we stopped sharing you though, just in case.
His connection might have dropped.
Yeah. I think that one like is the case. Yeah, we can hear you now. You're having
it
the
dropped. It dropped off. I was showing something and I just lost it. So let me go back there. And again, like I said, so just to save our time, usually you would see the status of normalization once that job runs. Let's get next.
While you're getting that to work, Dari asked a question. It's the product model that basically helps in standardizing and defining that ITAM space one, I believe. That if you can speak to that one too. I think you were looking at that product model right before you dropped off, I believe, where you were going to.
Okay, can we see my screen now?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. So sorry. So I was showing us that. So let's say that job runs, and it was unable to update that asset with the details as captured. What you would see is match not found, and the status will be not normalized. Sorry, guys, a minute, please. Apologies. And so, like I said, you will see not normalized. For everyone that was successful, you will see the status listed there in that job that has run. So that does happen with that scheduled job. So you said that asked the question. Let me just see what question you said he asked.
It's about the
Can you hear
product
me?
model. The one, yeah, it's the product
Okay.
model. The product model is used to normalize or standardize and streamline the IT asset manager. That if you can speak to that product model, that's what he was asking.
Oh, just to expatiate further on product model. Let me
Right.
stop sharing here and go back to my other screen. Sorry, can we also see my screen?
Yeah, we can see the email screen. Yes.
Okay. So I was saying he wants us to talk about the model proper, right? So let's go back to so like I said earlier, the plugin that runs to achieve this is the normalization data services plugin. That is the plugin that helps us achieve that normalization. And he wanted us to talk about models. Device details on model records. Okay. So back to models. For asset management, we track all of these. For models, you're tracking manufacturer and model. And for your configuration management, you track all of that. And to throw more light on models, what is a model record? Your model record provides the base information for many different applications in ServiceNow. All of that, SAM, ITSM, contracts, and all of that. Now, many people are familiar with the idea of models when it comes to cars. For example, in 2015 Honda CR-V, there are characteristics but all CR-Vs that make it easy to classify them together in a single CR-V model record. Similarly, for hardware, the companies have different computers and devices they manufacture, which means model records allow you to maintain common characteristics in a single location. This again helps ensure data consistency and facilitates reporting. So that your model can be in one or more model categories. For example, a laptop can be a computer and a server. So, like we said earlier, your model name will be the Elite Book E50G1. But for that same model name, you have different model numbers. So a laptop can have G this, E this, and E this. All are model numbers of the same model name. That's the way they give us the example. Again, with cars, we have models and we have make and models. And then for each model, you have years. We can have Honda CR-V. I think the first time that was made was 2023. 2099, I guess. I can't remember now. But again, even though it's Honda as make, it is CR-V as model, the model number will differ for each of the batch that is created. You can have your manufacturer as Samsung. Samsung can have, I don't know, Samsung, what is the example with Samsung? I'm looking for, okay, let's use HP. HP has Elite Books. Even with Elite Books as the model name, the model numbers will vary depending on the type of model of Elite book you're looking at. I don't know if that does shed any more some light on models, as I really don't know where you are going to with that question, but I can share some documentation with you to just throw more lights on models. As well said, okay. So the category is computers. The name is Elite Book, but the model number is different. So 370, 371, 372, 373. Now, even with the same model category, the same model name, the same model number, you still will have all four devices with different serial numbers, which is why they all have different asset tags. So, what you want to capture is that every of these detail is correct as per the manufacturer. So let's say all of these are HP devices. So you have manufacturer as HP, Model category computer. The model name will be Elite Book 850G1. Then you have the model numbers, which means all 4 of the laptops are the same models with the same model number, but different serial numbers, which invariably means they have different asset tags. So that just gives you more context in regards to model categories, model names, and model numbers. But again, you want to make sure all of this is captured when you are doing data integrity for your assets. Again, lots and lots of things to go through. I was wanting for us to do one more lab before we do go off. I know our time is fast spent by a lot.
Which of the labs do you want to do? The creating the hardware model lab one, or whichever?
I showed us earlier how to just go there, click, and then pick the one you want. Add the category and create, and then create a new bundle model. Okay, so they don't enumerate the steps for us to go ahead to do that. I'm sure there are pictures attached, if I'm not mistaken. So you go to your assets, you select the type you want to create, the hardware, you select category, you add the model to it, and what else are we adding to it from the lab? It's pretty straightforward. What else are we adding? Create a new bundle model and asset bundle. So I think I showed us that already. You just go there, do new. It will always ask you for, sorry, this is hardware. Sorry, let's go back to history, assets. Come on. Sorry, guys, we've taken more than we should do in terms of time. I'm hoping to finish now.
Right.
I want to just do some labs before.
Right. As you're doing that, Dari asked, so what's the job prospect for IT asset management, and then what are the things you must know to be successful within that space? Yes. Just in case we can't hear you though.
Sorry, so what? I'm trying to see the question actually.
Okay. Go ahead. It says, what's the job prospect for IT asset management? And then what are the things that you must know to be successful in that space? Yes.
Prospects, regardless of organization type, we all do manage assets. Not everybody has that model fully fleshed out. But at the end of the day, some form of asset management must exist for your for the assets you own. The prospects in asset management is enormous. Again, depending on where you are coming in from. I necessarily just need or require knowledge if I'm coming in as a BA, which means I could just read through documentation and have an idea of what that application or module does. But what you come to discover in ServiceNow is the client script, your UI policies, your business rule that you use in ITSM, it's the same thing you use in ITAM, it's the same thing you use in ITAM. All those are the tools you would always use regardless of which environment you are working. And so are you expected to know in details the inner workings of ITAM as a BA? On a scale of 1 to 10, I'll say no 5. if all you are doing is being a BA in the ServiceNow space. Administrator would be required to know more, so I'd go as high as 7. And for anything in the development space, you would need to have a 7 and above over 10 to operate as a developer. So the level of knowledge you require if you are just a BA ordinarily wouldn't or shouldn't be the same if you are an admin or a developer. So how much you know will always be a function of where you are operating. But again, what might stand you out, even if you are a BA, you can be the balanced BA in the team. There are functional BAs, there are technical BAs who do project solutioning, who sit down with clients and are able to speak to how to build out or implement fully these applications, integrating with their system. So there is no harm in you going all out to know as much as you should know. But if we are talking of the minimum requirement that you need, just the knowledge of it, agnostic, because for that purpose, but nobody would, in an interview or even on the job, we want you to be able to speak to the details as regards which schedule job runs, what time it runs, what scripting you do to make it. All that will be the job of developers and maybe administrators in some companies. The prospect always does exist for every ServiceNow module on the instance. We have CIS for almost every of those modules. Just that what you would come to see is where you would, where they will put out a job for ITSM, ITAM, sometimes ITOM, and you would see 100 applicants in 3 hours. When you do the same thing for modules like GRC, like SecOps, maybe in 2 hours, maybe even in 5 hours, there are only 29 applications because some of those modules are not as familiar as the ones we mentioned earlier. And so if you are wanting to come into this space and more or less exist in your own niche, my advice would be the CRMs, the GRCs, SecOps, a bit of discovery tool would stand you out. Some of those that are not the everyday modules that people use would give you a standout in terms of prospect. But where you now know GRC and you know SecOps, and they're asking you simple things in ITSM, and then you don't know it, then there's a problem. So you always want to have a mix of both. You're knowledgeable in almost everybody in the space does have ITSM. It's more like the bread and butter in ServiceNow. But then you now distinguish yourself by doing the unusual ones. So in terms of prospect, the way the market currently is, in all honesty, is crazy out there. That's the truth. Your best bet, if you ask me, if I were to come into this space now, I'm looking to stand out from day one. What I'll be looking to do would be those uncommon ones. That way, the competition for you is not as much as ITSM, ITAM, maybe ITOM, and then all the portals and catalog items and stuff you have, but you still will have to understand the basics before you get into doing those heavy ones. And then from a point of experience, in all honesty, you will discover you are more conversant with the modules you work with every day than all the ones you studied while trying to come into this space, whether it's HRSD, all those other ones. You might have learned them, but you discover you know more of the module you work with every day than all the other ones. So even in your interview, if you have been asked questions, can you do ABC in this module? If what you have is knowledge in those places, let them know, hey, I do have knowledge. I did my trainings in this and this and this. But over the past 3-4 years, I've worked more in these modules, and that is where I've had more experience as compared to those other modules that you don't have these experiences in. So that would be my advice in terms of prospects and how much knowledge you should have in that regard.
Thank you. Go ahead. Good.
Is there any other question?
No, that's the last one. But the,
Yeah,
are you creating the asset
okay,
one?
sorry, we were trying to do that. Also, like I said, whether we're creating hardware or software, consumable, again, those are other aspects to asset management that you can delve into. Facility does exist, consumable items does exist. Whether you're doing field service management, you are doing, look, it's a lot as far as asset management is concerned. So you would always find that there are jobs in these areas. Again, depending on the organization you are working into. To add a category to our assets, like we said, you click on the search button, it gives you a list of all available model categories you have. Let's say we want to create a computer asset. Select category computer, you go for model, you can choose to add a Dell, a gateway, Asus, let's pick this. The quantity will always default as 1 when you are manually creating. So again, organizations exist in different ways. For some, asset tag automatically auto-populates based on the last asset that was created in the system. So instead of you coming to enter numbers in asset tag, it is automated to be serial. So you ordinarily wouldn't be the one putting in some of this information. But just for the purpose of our lab today, we'll put in numbers in there, and we'll put in a serial number, because every asset must have a serial number. Let's hide this again. I can go ahead to save this as it is, or I can add more details, because the only mandatory field we have is model category, model, and serial number. This will save as it is, even though you also want to make sure you put in as much information as possible when you're creating an asset. There are other tabs that I'm sure is not beyond the scope of this class. The financial tab, disposal tab, depreciation, contracts, allocations, and activity. All of these are processes that eventually, as you delve more into asset management, all of this will be built out as processes. An example is contracts. Let's look at contracts. So let's say I was doing leases. I go into expired. Okay, I was hoping to initiate an expiration process for an asset. You know, our time is fast spent. It's always, okay, so to initiate this, your asset must be in one of 3 states, in either 30, 60, or 90 days to expiration, for you to be able to initiate the expiration process, which is what I'm trying to do here. Start date is 04/20. Everything here. So for me to be able to approve this, I have to assign this to Abel. Let's give it to Abel Twitter. So So, come on, guys. My bosses are at it again. So, let's do bet angling. Sorry, guys, just a minute. Tests. So, submit for review. So I'm looking for created. To bring that up. This is the one we just newly created. The expiration is within 60 days, so it falls within the category for which we can initiate the list buyout process. Sorry, guys, sorry. I'll scroll all the way down. There's a tab here for approval history. You go in there to changes to approve. Once it is approved, you would see state changes to active. And when that happens, we need to add assets to a contract. Again, like I said, all these are processes that eventually can be built into asset management. Usually then you create an asset, add it to it, you initiate the buyout process, that goes through procurement, PO line, you receive it, you order it, all of that happens in everything that has to do with that process. Until eventually you get to a point where you fully buy out that asset. So it is, really want to build out asset management. It is a whole team on its own that works asset management. But in some companies, you have the team that works SAM separately from the team that works HAM. Because oftentimes you discover if you truly want to optimize the capability in this model, to fully flesh it out, there's a lot of work that goes into it. So even in the ITAM space, there is so much that can be done with asset management. Again, I would like to say, I'm sorry if I didn't come across like a tutor. I said at the beginning, I'm not a teacher. I do not intend to become one. For people like Unemeka who have taken the path to teach people, we commend you. It's not been easy, even this past 2 hours, trying to put out into words what I've been trying to do on the screen. If you do need some help with documentations as regards ITAM, I'm sure Nemeka can point every of us in the right directions. And I am sorry I've taken more than the time I should have used for this deep dive. I truly apologize for the interruptions. And thank you very much, everyone.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Dari. Thank you, Temi. Thank you, Obi. Thank you, Ola. Thank you, everybody, for coming and sharing your Saturday with us. Yes, asset management even for the 2 hours is not enough. It's a lot of moving parts, or a lot of pieces. So, I mean, try to make do justice to it. It went well because the whole idea is still high level. Give us an overview for us to see how it is, and then pick our interest to go see it. There's a lot of places, whether it's for software or hardware, even the financial piece that I talked about too. Yeah, it's a whole suite of application or system in itself, and it's also tied to other processes within ServiceNow too as well. So, hey, whatever help you need, there will always be technologies needed. There's a lot of skill sets available in there. There's different analysts within this development teams. So you would never go long. You will always have, opportunities. You can always be, whether you want to be a technical BA or you lead BA, whatever. If you choose that route, if you choose to be implementer, that's fine too. If you choose to be a developer, all of that are there to help you. So you decide. Architect, it's all you. There's recently ServiceNow even introduced the architect excellence. So for people thinking of getting into there, go do it. There's a lot of resources in your hands to get you there, and then the community is there to help you get there. We are all cheering for you. That's really all it is. Once again, the videos will come out in a couple of minutes. Download those videos, and then we'll share the contacts for our technology. So Elisha's information will be shared too as well. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye bye.
Thank you, Adepopo.